I only ever cut my hair for 2 reasons. A wedding or a funeral. Only weddings and funerals, so I'm going to cut my hair, probably have to get my hair cut, well, the way things are going, probably next week sometime. Because we've got to bury my dad, you see. Did I tell you one about the Jewish cannibal? Can't we just defrost him and stick him in the bloody oven? So can't we just defrost Dad and stick him in the bloody oven? He must feel like a bloody Christmas fucking turkey. Stuck in the oven for 2 weeks. Just so stuck in the fridge for 2 weeks. You ever read that bit in the Bible, you know, from dust thou art and unto dust thou shalt return. You know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And life is the air you breathe. All your life you breathe the wind. I've said that on the other movie. We're just the wind in bags. Life is just the wind in a bag. My daddy, I say, you can't see your God, can you? But how do you know that your God exists? When you say, our Father who art in heaven, etc. I say my dad always, well, for the last 50 years, he's been living down here on planet Earth. But I did get 50 years to know my God. My dad. My dad is still my God. My dad will always be my God. My mum will always be my God. My mum and dad. I got 2 gods, you see. I got a god and a goddess sort of thing. I got a mummy and daddy. Basically, my mummy, my daddy fucked my mummy sort of thing. You know, like, several times, you know. Or at least 5 times. They must have had sex at least 5 times in their life, yeah. In fact, they were at it like rabbits when I was a teenager. Well, when we were kids and stuff. I remember I had my mates around when I was a teenager. My mates used to come around. I used to have, you know, sort of half a dozen mates sort of thing. You know, really good mates like. We used to hang around with Bill's quite a lot. Bill Shirley's house quite a lot. I'll tell you about that later. But the point is, it's like, yeah, they used to come around, and sometimes, one night I remember my mates were around like about 10 o'clock at night or something. And we were having sort of like a chat before bed, you know, beer before bedtime, something like that. It must be about 17 or 18, because we were drinking beer at that point, I think. Anyway, and there was a thump, thump, thump coming from upstairs, going boom, 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 boom. It must be about 16, 17, maybe 18, I don't know. And I had my mates around, and like, there's a bump, bump, bump up upstairs, and I said, what's that? And I said, that's Mum and Dad. And my mates looked at me and said, what, you mean they're still fucking? My mates were surprised that my parents were still having sex when I was a teenager. Well, until quite recently, actually, to be honest with you, until sort of like, you know, my mum and dad always used to have a lot of sex when we were kids, actually. In fact, even lately, you know, in the last few years. So, obviously, as you get older, you don't have so much sex, I suppose, because you don't have so much spunk, or you get tired or something. But anyway, the point is like, yeah, they used to have a lot of sex when we were kids. Mum and dad did, yeah. And my mates came out, and there was this bump, 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 and I said, what's that? I said, that's Mum and Dad having sex again. It was about 10 o'clock at night or something like that, you know. I mean, we were used to it when we were kids. I mean, we were never afraid of ghosts when we were children. There's always a thump, thump, thump coming from Mum and Dad's room at night. I wonder what they're doing in there. My Mum and Dad used to fuck like rabbits, I tell you. I mean, really, they did. Quite a lot. Quite a lot. Hell of a lot, actually. Come to think of it. So what's that thump, thump, thump? I said, there's Mum and Dad there, screwing again. And they looked at me as if it was kind of weird. What? Your parents having sex? Yeah, they have sex. And they thought it was weird. Seriously, my mates, when I was a teenager, they really thought it was strange that my parents were still having sex. Seriously. Funny. It was never any big deal in my family, man. In fact, that's it. I remember, I've told this one before, about when I came out of the closet. Well, I got kicked out by my little brother. That's another film. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about something else tonight. Talking about something else. The shrubbery. What I want. Actually, we've got to wait. Maybe let's say we've got to wait about 2 or 3 weeks. Well, another 2 weeks or whatever, or maybe another week, before we can even bury my dad. They just finished the autopsy today. I was chatting to Don. She just did the autopsy today. It's the yesterday sort of thing, Tuesday. It's 13th of April. But yeah, did the autopsy. So apparently it's like the blood wasn't flowing to his heart. Like I said, my dad's arteries have been crap for years. My dad's had a lot of problems with his arteries, and they've sort of like been collapsed. That's why he gets blue fingers. He's had blue fingers for years, man. Several years, you know. And sort of, basically, most of his heart problems are due to the bad blood flow. In fact, when you think about it, it's not. I think what actually probably caused the problem with his heart in the first place, heart attack, was the fact that he's got the blood flow. My dad's never had very good. My dad hasn't got very good blood flow in his veins. The blood doesn't flow very well in his veins. He's got very bad. I can't remember what it's called when the blood doesn't flow. I think his blood might be too thick or something. Anyway, it was sort of like, you know. But anyway, the blood wasn't flowing to the heart properly, which is why my dad was having difficulty breathing, because like if the blood don't get to the heart, then the air don't get to the lungs. Well, no. So if you breathe in through the mouth into the lungs. The lungs fill up the heart, and then the lungs pump blood. That's right. Sorry, the wind goes into your. What's that? The wind doesn't go into the heart; it goes into the lungs, doesn't it? Well, you breathe in the wind, right? And the wind goes into your lungs, yeah. And then your lungs pump the blood around the body, don't they? I say it's the lungs. Well, is the lungs pump blood into your heart? And you breathe into your lungs, yeah, and into your stomach. Actually, you breathe into your stomach. In fact, you breathe into your whole body as well. It's not just the lungs, is it? You do breathe when you breathe in. You actually breathe into your whole body, because your stomach is underneath your throat, isn't it? Your stomach is underneath your throat. So actually, sort of like the air goes through your down your throat. Through the pipe into your stomach. Actually, it's because it's got. There must be about 3 exits in the throat sort of thing. A tube going down, sarcophagus or esophagus or I don't know. Anyway, you swallow food through your mouth, don't you? Swallow through your mouth. So actually, when you breathe in, the air goes into your lungs, but a lot of the air goes into your stomach as well, doesn't it? Because like when you drink water, the water goes into your bladder. That's funny. Oh, because the food goes into your. No, hang on. The food and the water both go into your bladder, don't they? First. No, into your stomach first. So I'm just thinking about that. I'm trying to map out the human race. And the body. So you breathe in, and the air goes into your lungs. Like it's got 2 funnels out here. Goes into, fills up the lungs, which are pumps. The lungs are like pumps. It's the lungs sort of breathe in the air and push the blood through the veins to the heart. So it gets to the heart, and the heart pumps because when the lungs pump, and the heart pumps. So air also gets into your stomach and into your. Well, the stomach goes into the bladder. The stomach goes into the bladder. Well, the stomach. Sorry, the water and food goes into your stomach. Then the food waste, the solid food, goes into your bowel, doesn't it? It sort of digests through the intestine or something. The solid food, I think, digests through the intestine or something, and ends up in the bowel. So that's shit. So once the solid food is digested, that's shit. But the water sort of goes into the kidneys, doesn't it? The water goes into the kidneys, and then it's the pure, the clean water, I suppose, goes into the blood, sort of thing. So that keeps your blood flowing. That's why you need liquid to keep your blood flowing, because the kidneys sort of what is it about the kidneys actually separate the bad, well, not bad, the bad water from the good water, sort of thing. I don't know how it actually works. I don't know actually how it works, because I drink all sorts of fluid: coffee, beer, You know, things. My dad could only drink 1.5 litres of water a day. Can you imagine that in summertime? A bottle and a half of Coke a day, sort of thing. Fucking hell, that must have... It was, in fact, I was chatting to him on last Tuesday, and he's saying, yeah, it does. I was chatting to something saying it must be really, really fucking hard in summertime, only having 1.5 litres of water a day. And I says, yeah, and that's, yeah, obviously, something. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, the kidneys must sort of some of the water must go into the blood to keep. So you keep, because if you actually get your, in fact, actually, if you actually have a blood transfusion, donate blood, for instance, they take a pint of blood, don't they? They only take a pint of blood when you have when you donate blood. They take 1 pint of blood. So you've got 1 pint of blood less in your body. So you drink a lot of fluids. So then you drink fluid like water or tea or whatever to get the water back into your body. Because actually the body is actually made of about 90% water. You do need water because the body is actually made of 90% water. In fact, the body isn't made of 90% water. So you do have to drink a lot of water. We should do. But imagine how hard it must be for the body. Because because my dad had kidney failure, he'd only drink 1.5 litres a day. So the body must have dried out. That must have dried out the body quite a bit, because the human body actually normally, when it works, drinks loads of water a day. I mean, I can go to the pub and drink 10 pints a night, sort of thing. You know, I might drink about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I drink about 6 cans of beer a day. I mean, with me, I drink when I go to work. I have I have about 2 cups of coffee in the morning. 1 before I go to work, 1 at work, maybe 2 at work, and I'll drink 1.5 pints of milk. Then I'll drink when I'm working. No, 1, 2. So I drink 3 pints of milk when I'm working. 1.5 litres. That's right. It's 1.5 litres of milk. But when I'm actually posting letters, I personally drink 1.5 litres of milk. That's my dad's daily limit. That's as much water as my dad's allowed a day. The amount of milk I drink when I'm working, that's as much water as my dad can drink a day. 24 hours, every 24 hours sort of thing. Which is not a lot. I mean, I drink 1.5 litres of milk in about 4 hours when I'm posting my letters. Because I'm a postman, like. That's like 3 pints of milk. That's 3 pints of milk. I drink every morning I drink about 3 pints of milk. Plus, maybe a pint of coffee sort of thing. And in the evenings, I'll drink, 1, 2... Well, when I get home from work, I used to have a sandwich and have another half pint of milk with bananas and eggs and 3 eggs and stuff for my lunch sort of thing. And in the evening, I'll drink about 5 or 6, maybe 7 cans of beer, like, and about a dozen joints or whatever. But what I'm saying, it's sort of like, so anyway, so basically, sort of like, we've got the post-mortem for my dad, like, today. And, yeah, apparently the blood wasn't really flowing to my dad's heart. Or the blood wasn't, well, we knew the blood wasn't flowing very well for years. We've known the blood hasn't been flowing very well. So basically, it's like, he was just basically running out of breath. When it comes down to it, he just ran out of breath in the end. My dad, he just ran out of breath. It was, when I was talking to him on Tuesday, I was there about an hour and a half sort of thing, But I had a British Tales was, okay, it's short of breath, but let's say the postman said ran out of breath. But anyway, I was thinking today what I want. So I was saying we've got to wait probably another week for the funeral for some reason because of the, paperwork and all that shit. So in the meantime, my dad's stuck in the deep freeze. I mean, a funeral, for me, I mean, I think yours and most of you believe is to say goodbye in a way. You think maybe you're saying goodbye. I'm not saying goodbye to my daddy. Yeah, I'll get my hair cut for the funeral. I will. I'll get styled a bit. Have a nice cut for my dad's funeral. So smart myself up, like suit and tie stuff. But I'm just saying, I'm not going there to mourn my dad. I'm not going to go to the funeral to cry for my dad. If I go to a funeral, I want to celebrate my dad's life. I want to celebrate his life, not mourn his death. Because in my brain, and I've got 50 years of memories in my brain. I had 50 years of my dad inside my brain. So how can my dad be dead when I have 50 years of memory of my dad? I spent 50 years with my dad. 50 fucking years with my dad. And I know my dad very well. Possibly a lot better than some people. The point is, I was with my dad for 50 years. So we're always going to be together in my memories. Okay, I mean, basically, right, I saw Dad once, sometimes twice a week. Usually, well, quite often twice a week, you know, when he was ill, a bit more often than that. But when my mum went on holiday over the last, well, I suppose 10 years or so. When Mum usually goes on holiday, like every year. Mum goes on holiday every year. But when my mum went, I mean, this year my dad went into a care home when Mum went on holiday because he hasn't been very well, because my dad's not been well, you know, he's been very ill this year. He hasn't been well for the donkey's years back. Basically, when my mum went on holiday before, I used to spend the week with my dad. It was my holiday too, in a way. For several years, actually. Probably since I come home from Australia quite a lot. Well, you know, since I've been up here in a way. I mean, because I've always lived in Hatfield since... the only time I didn't live in Hatfield was 1990 and 91 I moved up to Yorkshire. I was living in Yorkshire for a bit in 91. Last Summer Wine Country. What's it called? Last Summer Wine Country. Can't remember the name of the fucking town now. Anyway, yeah. So basically for sort of like 49 years of my life, except for when I went to Australia, I've always seen my dad sort of basically every weekend, near enough, yeah. Yeah, every weekend and quite often during the week as well. So I mean, always really. Never been that far from home. I only went to Australia and that. And when I lived up north for a bit. Apart from the time I lived up north in Australia, when I was living in Wellington, you know, at some point. But since I come back from Australia, basically, sort of like, most part, I see my mum and dad, you know, a couple of times a week, you know. Quite often bump into my mum in the supermarket, you know. But, you know, I see my mum and dad, you know, once, twice a week. And I always kept, and I don't want to move, because I like living close to home. Because I have always got on really well with my mum and dad. You know, even when I came out as gay, you know, got the films on that. My dad, do you know, when I came out, actually, it's a good point, it's another film as well, I know I've got that on that. But, because I got outed by my little brother, it's on the other film, I got outed by Donald, my little brother. You know, where you go and gay pub, boom, 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 tell mum and dad, sort of thing. But AIDS was really big in that was 1991 actually, 1991. When I came back from Australia, because I knew I was gay, anyway, I was gay from the day one, basically. Nearly got married once, went bisexual for, you know, nearly got married, and then I came out as, when I went to Australia, that's when I actually came out as gay. That was just after I split up. I was with my girlfriend, actually. I was with Virginia for about 1980, well, I don't know, 19 years old, how was I, 60, 1989. Was it no, before then. 1966, 76, 80, 1985. Yeah, I think I met Ginny, my girlfriend Ginny. And about, no, it was later than that. When I started work for the Chamber of Commerce, I was 18 when I started. No, I came back out of the army. I joined the army, came out of the army. About 18 years old, then I was sort of 66, 76, 86, 1984, probably about 1984. Yeah, about 19 years old. 85. Yeah, 1985 when I met Virginia. Met Ginny, my girlfriend. I had a girlfriend when I was 19. That's right, because I met Virginia when I was 19. Because I was working in the office and Chamber of Commerce light. She was my only girlfriend, actually. Only real girlfriend. Well, she was my only girlfriend. I used to have friends who were girls at school. I mean, I had a lot of girlfriends at school, you know. And neighbours and, you know, and people I've known over the years. But the only girlfriend I had, sort of sexual girlfriend, that was Virginia, Ginny. I met her in 1984, and that went on to about 1988, I think. We were together for about 4 years, actually. No, about 3 years, I think. It might have been 1985. Nothing might have met in 1985. I can't remember. Pre 1985, something like that. Anyway, we were together about sort of 3 years or so. But then we split up because we got really into debt. We got really, really into debt. We used to spend every Saturday night, me and my girlfriend, Ginny. When I had a girlfriend, Ginny, we had great sex. We used to have sex in the back of a Mini all the time. We were 19 or 20. It was 19 and 20 and 21, I think. And I split up yeah, I think we used to go about 2.5 years, 3 years, something like 2.5 years. But we used to have great sex in a Mini, and fucking good sex actually. That was really good straight sex. But I was in love with her, like with Ginny. I was really in love with her, like, you know. But anyway, we got a flat together. You know, we actually got engaged after a couple of years. And we got a flat together, and then sort of like we used to go up to London every Saturday night, and we used to go and sort of like to a Garfunkel's restaurant, get steak. We used to have steak and chips in the Garfunkel restaurant, and then we used to go to a wine bar. We wined and dined and spent a fortune actually, and bought her clothes, and she bought me clothes and stuff. But we spent actually, we got really well into debt when we were about 21 sort of thing. By the time we were 21, we were up to our necks in debt sort of thing. So that sort of like caused a problem. That's when she decided to leave. Sort of, we split up after that. Well, she left me actually. I was quite happy, but you know, she got a bit unhappy. She put a bit of weight or something. Got a bit. She was like very, very paranoid about her weight. She was. Anyway, so I mean, sort of, she left me, and then sort of. So I decided to save up money about 1988, 89. No, it must be 1988 because it took me a year to clear my debts. That's right, it took me a year to clear my debts. So 1988, 89, I moved back home to mum and dad and cleared my debts. Then I spent a year saving money, and then I went to saving all the money that I didn't have any debts. So I spent a year saving money, and then I went to Australia for a year. So that was the only time I was away from home, was for a year in Australia in 1990. And when I came out, AIDS was really big. A lot of gays were dying. A hell of a lot of people were dying of AIDS in from about 1982 to about till now sort of thing. But the only thing my dad said was, because AIDS was so big, he said, just be careful and be safe. Practice. Basically, my dad basically said, be careful and practice safe sex. Because actually, when I came out of the closet in 91, I was actually 25. And my dad said, just be careful. Because AIDS was really big. A lot of gays were dying of AIDS at that time, in 91, sorry. But my dad said, just be careful and practice safe sex. You know, wear a condom, basically. My dad basically just said, be careful, wear a condom. He never had a problem with me being gay. My whole family has never had a problem with being gay. In fact, I had a boy, when I had my first boy, when I used to go to gay pub, I used to actually bring my, guys home sometimes. Yeah, I used to bring guys home to meet my parents sometimes when I was. And in fact, Mikey was part of the family. Later on, when I met Mikey in '98, he was part of the family. My nephews used to call my boyfriend Auntie Mikey. He was Auntie Mikey, I was Uncle Bill. But I used to have, sort of like a few one-night stands and a few boyfriends when I was in the spotted pool for a day or two. You know what I mean? And some of them met my parents, yeah. So my parents have never had a problem with me being a puff. Never ever had a problem with me being gay. But like I say, I've seen my parents. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about shrubbery. Yeah, what I want is a shrubbery. Now that my dad's dead, let's get the funeral out of the way. That's just formality, right? But I'm saying, to remember my dad, what I want, I'm going to ask my mum tomorrow. What I want is a little bit of the garden, mum. I want a little bit of dad's garden. Because mum and dad's garden is really big in Worcester Road. So I'm going to ask my mum for a little bit of my dad's garden so I can make a shrubbery. A little rose garden, a little flower garden to remember my dad by. Most people say it's the end, death, the end. I'm saying, no, fuck it. My dad's gone back to the earth. My dad's in spirit, in the skylight, in the wind. Yes, I can sit in the garden and think of my dad. So what I'm going to do is ask Mum if I can have a bit of the garden. Then I can grow a flower bed and grow a shrubbery or whatever. And then I can look at it when I've planted it and talk to my dad while I'm planting the seeds. Because my dad's the wind now. He's dead, he's the wind. So I'll be able to talk to my dad when I'm planting the garden. And I can design a shrubbery so I can go and look. When I want to think about my dad, I can go and tend my garden. And it'd be nice to have a little garden in mum's back. Because I live in a block of flats, I've never had a garden. Because I've always lived in flats, I've never had a garden. But I can ask my mum for a little corner patch of dad's garden. Then I'll plant some flowers Make a nice little tribute to Dad. I want to build a garden for Dad. That's what I want to do. A shrubbery. I want to build a shrubbery for my dad. So that whenever I want to think about my dad or whatever, I can go into the garden and look at the shrubbery that I've just built or whatever. That's what I want. I want a little bit of patch of garden in my mum's garden. So I start to grow some flowers and just maybe a veg patch, whatever. But just a little bit, so I can sort of to think about my dad. And I can go there and I can sit and think about my dad while I'm doing the garden. So I've never had a garden, but I would like to plant flowers and stuff. I could plant a flower bed for my dad, to remember my dad by. Because my dad was always in the garden, see. My dad loved his garden. So one thing about my dad, he was a gardener. He loved his fucking garden. He really did love his fucking garden. So to remember my dad, what I'm going to do is ask my mum for a little patch I'll ask mum for a little patch of dirt, a little patch of the garden. And then I want to plant a shrubbery and plant some plants and flowers and just something to remember my dad. Rather than just a funeral, bye-bye. I'm actually writing a book as well, stuff, but I've done it mostly on film of what I was going to put in the books. But yeah, I'd like to actually plant a shrubbery, grow some flowers in my mum's garden, like take over a bit of my mum's garden, like an allotment. But I want to grow a flower garden for my dad, to remember my dad by, rather than just a funeral and a grave. Rather than a funeral and a grave, I just want a little patch of garden that can plant some flowers or whatever, and think about my dad. Not a grave, not a headstone. Well, I could put a headstone in it actually. Once I've designed it, that's like dedicated to Dad sort of thing. Not a grave. But I might actually, if I can get I'll have to ask my mum if I can have part of a garden. Because I've never really been able to garden very much since I left home, because I never liked gardening. I never really liked gardening when I was at home. I hated it most of the time. Mum still bugs me to pick her fruits every year. Still got to go and pick for plums every year. Mum still sends me plum picking every year. 50 years old, my mummy still sends me plum picking. But yeah, I want a little bit of the garden, and that's how I'm going to remember my dad. That's how I want to think about my dad, because my dad always spent a lot of time in the garden. He loved his garden. So I want a garden. Now that that's his body's worn out. So what I want is I want a little bit of the garden. Not for a grave, because my dad's returned to the earth. Not for a grave. Not so I can cry, but so I can grow something out of it. To grow something out of it, of the earth. Maybe like a little memory thing for me. Yeah, great, that's what I want to do. I want to grow a little flower garden for me, a little garden for me. Yeah, it's just a little patch. Instead of a grave. I want a shrubbery. A shrubbery instead of a grave. Of course, if they don't fucking bury him soon, we could always bury him in the garden. I suppose if they don't fucking bury Dad soon, we would bury him in the fucking garden. Oh, by the way, Dad was an atheist, like I said. At one point, Dad just collapsed and died, like. I'm glad it wasn't a lingering death. That was my whole. In fact, it was quite wide awake, when just before he died. But I'm glad he didn't die slowly, because the last thing Dad would want is the fucking last rites. Oh God, I'm glad we avoided that Catholic shit. In fact, you don't have too much Catholicism in this funeral, please. No religion. Dad was an atheist. I'm glad it wasn't a lingering death, because they'd already gone and read the last rites over his body, like whatever. My dad, he may have been born a Catholic, but he was an atheist. Anyway, what I want is a shrubbery. I want a shrubbery, and I'm going to ask my mum if I can have a little patch of garden, so I can grow some flowers and maybe some herbs or whatever, and grow a shrubbery for my dad. Yeah, that's what I want, a shrubbery.